and welcome to the Snap UK podcast, your one-stop shop for all the news, views and opinions you need on the NFL from this side of the pond. I'm back in the big chair this week because all chairs look big when I sit on them, and I'm joined in the doghouse by Jim, John and Gary, thrown slightly by the fact that Paul is not here, and that's in my script still. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Gary, who will from this show forth be known as the Sack Shanahan Brigade.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay, good. The Texans, Bears, Bengals and Giants were all on the bye. That did not work out well for one of those teams. But there's still plenty to delve into as usual. Some close games, some huge blowouts, and a tie which made a passionate night of sweaty, writhing, lingerie-clad, BDSM-laced lovemaking with Paul seem palatable as an alternative. Let's jump right in with a close game between two teams who historically find a way to lose. Chargers 20, Vikings 27. And the Chargers are slipping back a little into the middle of the AFC pack now after a really good start to the season. I don't know what to make of them anymore. Same as the Vikings, I don't know what to make of them either. What are we going to do with these two teams?
Bin them. Move on.
So what's the next game?
If the Vikings hadn't made such a feeble start to the season,
They could be 9-0.
They actually could be.
Could be, because like the
18 points total. They've
Yeah.
lost all those games by the 5 games.
ridiculous. And I think we discussed power ranking, head coach power rankings earlier, and I've got Mike Zimmer right at the not right at the bottom, but very
In
low.
the low 20s, I would think.
Yeah, because this team's good, and it proved it can be better than what it is, and yet every week apart from this week, they seem to trip over themselves somehow or some way. As with the Chargers, I think they've taken a step forward from where they have been in the past few seasons. I think you said it on Sunday, people are figuring out Justin Herbert now a little bit, and I think
of course
there needs to be probably a bit more play scheming from the offensive coaches to try and get more out of him. But if they finish, I was about to say 8-8 there, but 8-9, say, I think that's a step forward for them, and it's progress, isn't it?
If they finish without a winning record, I think that's a step backwards.
I don't think it is from where they have been.
Yeah, but last year they were good.
Yeah.
They're still good this year. They're still 5-4.
I would be extremely disappointed if they finish without a winning record. I think the point about Herbert is everybody regresses slightly to the mean. He got off so hot like Mahomes did. And if you look at them both this season, they've just regressed slightly because people have figured them out. And if you haven't made mistakes for a large period of time, then those mistakes are probably going to come in bunches because everybody makes them.
I don't actually agree. You'd be surprised to know.
Shock.
So actually,
Remember last week when he wasn't here? Did not agree.
Still disagreed with us.
Look, I did actually. Yeah, I had to
You
make
did.
some comments.
It was just by text.
Just by text afterwards. But if you look at Eckler, 44 yards. So it's the same for any team. If the run game isn't as potent and the offense isn't as balanced, we know that it just puts too much pressure on. So I think if they can't make sure that run game is as potent as it was at the start of the season, Eckler was on fire, wasn't he? It wasn't just Herbert. Herbert was probably only still throwing for 250 yards. I don't remember loads of 400-yard games at the start of the season. He was throwing for 270 yards, probably 3 touchdowns and a pick. So this week he threw 200 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick.
1 touchdown.
Oh, there you go. 1 touchdown and a pick. Eckler just, if they can't get that run game working, it puts it all back on that, doesn't it?
Eckler is he is carrying an injury week to week. He's not as potent as he was before. As well, Mahomes' comparison is a good one because, you look at what Herbert has got. Mike Williams is carrying an injury. Keenan Allen doesn't seem the same as he was. Jared Cook is Cook.
Jared Cook.
He's a great red zone target,
but he's an up and down tight end. Don't laugh. But yeah, I think Herbert is doing as well with the bits
up and down
around him.
tight end. Don't laugh.
On the flip side, this has been the Chargers are one of those squads which have been routed by injuries over the last few years. They haven't got those this year, especially on the defense. Like Joey Bosa's been there all the time. Derwin James has finally come back and is fit. So I think they're better on the defensive side, but yeah, I think they've taken a step back offensively.
Do you not think the defence has actually been disappointing this year?
Every year you look at the the pieces on this defense and say it should be amazing. And every year, one or two of them are injured for key parts of the season, and they never quite live up to it.
They're always closer to the middle of the pack than right at the front. Regarding Mike Williams, he had 4 touchdowns, I think, 4 touchdowns in the first 6 weeks, and he's had 1 since. And that shows, because it's all on Keenan Allen, who, like you say, perhaps isn't the player he was 2 or 3 years ago before injuries.
Oh, no,
he's still brilliant. He had 98 receiving yards this week. The rest of the team had 97.
Yeah.
Like, he's still awesome, but Mike Williams, if he's not being a threat, he's not drawing enough coverage.
If he's getting double teamed all the time, that's going to hurt.
Anyway, leaving it where it is. We need to talk Kirk Cousins because, as lots of people said this weekend, Kirk is playing really, really well, and I cannot stand to give the man praise because he's a buffoon. but he's playing really, really well. He's like the 3rd-rated quarterback in the league right now, and he probably deserves a little more than he's getting from everybody in terms of love and appreciation.
Nah. I think it's fine. You know, it's Kirk.
He just doesn't turn the ball over, and I think prime time lets him down in terms of how he's delivered, and he hasn't really taken a team deep into the playoffs, but he can play football, can't he? He's as good as loads of the quarterbacks, if not better. He must be pushing for a top 10. Not looking at just
he's well
rankings,
inside the top 10.
But I'd say generally, when he got the big contract, a few people are like, is he really worth that? But he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, really.
No,
not unless he's chasing a game.
His interceptions are always in the sort of the lowest 5 or 6 in the league. It like you say, it's the bright light games, it's the pressure situations, and I think that's partly what lets the Vikings down, because if the coach isn't able to perform in the pressure and the quarterback isn't able to perform in the pressure, then they will always crumble in those key moments, and that is always what happens. It's a bit like the opposite to what they had when they had Keenum that year, when the pressure didn't seem to affect him because no one expected anything. So he may have turned the ball over more, but then you got the surprise wins because there was nothing to crumble. And
you compare it to the other side. I mean, I know, but Jefferson, Thielen, Conklin, Cook, you've got Cook as a running game. You've got Mattison, who is, there to back him up. Ham is there as well. They can mix it up. And at the moment, the Chargers can't.
CJ Ham was unlucky not to get a touchdown for a second week in a row, to be fair. Paul would have been loving that.
He would have.
That running game could be affected if the Vikings lose Dalvin Cook. So, again, another situation that we don't have all the facts. We've got one party saying, I've been assaulted, and him saying, basically, you broke into my house and attacked me, so I had to fend you off. The fact that he hasn't immediately been suspended makes me think that there is something to investigate rather than it being a cut-and-shut case, because I don't think the NFL wants to have to take this on if it doesn't have to. If they could just suspend him or release him, bearing in mind what's happened the last few weeks, they would. So there must be something there. And apparently his representatives had been to the Vikings when this happened and said, this is going to come out. So I don't know. I think he might have been dropped already, but my record on this season has been pretty poor. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what you make of it. I was surprised he was playing, but I don't think they're suddenly going to drop him for this coming week.
No, I agree. I don't think he's going to get dropped for this unless it becomes a criminal matter.
I think we would have heard more about it, haven't we? Because, like I said, there was the initial press release, I think, from his agent. Then we heard from the other side another story, and then we heard that the NFL are aware of it, and that's all we've heard. Yeah. So, as with all these things, they need to go through due process. And it sounds like this one's going through the process. As it stands, he's not been criminally charged. He can play on. And, they need to keep him playing, because if he's not playing, the Vikings are screwed.
I think so. You'll see Kirk's numbers go down slightly. Quickly then, round the table, is this a better result for the Vikings or a worse result for the Chargers?
That's a tough question.
Better result for the Vikings because the Chargers are in a tight division and there's still everything to play for.
They're still second in the division,
Yeah, it's better for the Vikings. The Chargers have some wiggle room because
they're all like 5-4 now, aren't they?
Kansas are at the top.
Kansas
now.
are at the top.
Yeah.
We'll get to them, but yes.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's probably better for the Vikings. I think it's for a confidence boost as well to beat a team with a winning record.
Momentum, is good. Yeah.
So, that being said, the result for the Chargers wasn't made any more tolerable once they saw the Chiefs dismantle the Raiders' late Sunday matchup, 41-14. Reality, I'm afraid, starting to bite in Vegas. They've lost some key players. They've lost whether whether you think he was any good or not, they've lost the figurehead coach. And it starts to look like it. They had one good game under Bisaccia. That's two now where they've basically failed to turn up. Darren Waller this week was just completely contained by a Chiefs defense that's been doing virtually nothing all season.
Yeah, this was a poor performance. I think anyone that says that anything that happens off the field shouldn't affect the team, and it's that mantra of next man up and all that, that's complete bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, you're a team. You're working with these people day in day out. To lose your leader, your spiritual leader of that organisation to an extent now that Al Davis is gone. Then you lose one of your best wide receivers. You lose a starting cornerback. We don't know how bigger players they are within the locker room. It's going to have, and the way that they lost them, I think it's going to have an effect, and I think we're seeing that. And on the flip side, Kansas needed to bounce back, and they needed this performance and this win just to kind of prove that it's not all doom and gloom in Kansas City anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big game for Patrick Mahomes. It was easily his best game of the season. So he now has 400-plus passing yards and 5 passing touchdowns for the third time in his career, which ties him for the most games since 1950, and he's the only player to do that multiple times without throwing picks in those games. So he's back to record-setting pace. It's whether or not they can sustain that. I think, to Gary's point earlier, I still think they'll struggle in games where they need to run the ball.
Yeah, because they can't.
Because they don't have that option.
No, Edwards-Helaire is due back soon, though, isn't he?
But
I thought he could come back this week. But
he wasn't great.
Him out.
He's been a disappointment, don't get me wrong, but he's another
he's an option
to roll out, because... Williams has been okay. He's not been awful.
No. He's been.
He's averaging about 4 yards a carry since he came in, but he's not stellar, is he? He's not elite. He's not elite Aaron Jones. With his dodgy knees.
I think the biggest difference this week with Mahomes' play was that he was willing to take the checkdowns. He's willing to take the short passes. He wasn't trying to lob it long and trying to get those Hollywood passes. A lot of the time he was passing to the flat to Darrell Williams or to Tyreek Hill, or to Mecole Hardman, and letting them do the yards and do the work. And they asked him to throw 50 times, and I think that's deceiving in a sense, because a lot of those passes were, you could class them as runs. More so.
9 different receivers.
Yeah,
they've got a spread
rather than just Kelsey Hill.
Yeah,
Kelsey Hill.
Yeah, I mean Darrell Williams had 9 receptions, and I think that speaks to the game plan they had in place. Short passes, let the guys who'd got the ball in the hand do the work.
Travis Kelce surpassed Rob Gronkowski, actually, for the most games with 100-plus receiving yards amongst tight ends with 33 games. So, it's those two, Mahomes and Kelce, if they click and they can have a running game, we know this team will be fine. It's just getting all the pieces to line up. And I think they're running out of room to make errors because, all right, the Chargers lost this week, but the Chiefs are top of the division. But we've seen how brittle the Chiefs can be. If they slip back, they might not get a second chance to claw their way to the top of the division.
I think they will. It's they've gone from worst to first in that division in a matter of days. I think they can have another bad streak and still, because as well, this is what the Chiefs can do. Every so often, they will just blow teams away.
Yeah,
sometimes they do just save it for the Raiders.
I think they have been fortunate that the teams who were above them have all slipped up one way or another.
Yeah.
I think they're lucky they haven't got a Titans or a Bills type team within this division. Otherwise, they could be a lot further behind.
Interesting, actually. Just we did our power rankings, and the AFC didn't score that highly overall, did it?
No.
And actually, the Vikings up against the Chargers, and the Vikings gave the Chargers a good seeing to. So, I think the Chiefs will.
The Vikings would be good at that.
Exactly.
I know we mentioned Henry Ruggs obviously departing the team, but I think a player who has stepped up this year and looking increasingly better every time I see him, Brian Edwards, the wide receiver. He keeps popping up on highlight reels, and I think he could be a good receiver in years to come. It might be one they've found out of nowhere.
Well, Deshaun Jackson looked like he was going to do good things with his first reception as a Raider, turned, ran up the field, and then promptly fumbled the ball away, and that was partly where the game was lost. It wasn't ideal,
they
but
never got back from that.
No, they need to get him involved. I made a note of the fake punt in this game. Did anybody see this fake punt? It was a beautiful punt. It was as good a pass as you will ever see from a non-quarterback. It was absolutely spot on. It wasn't like there was no one covering the player either. Like, it was like, that's where I'm going with it, but I've got to get it over that defender.
It was a lovely pass.
It really was.
Yeah.
Perhaps they've got more than one player that can pass on that team.
Let's not go that far.
That result should have opened the door for the Broncos to capitalise on last week's destruction of the Cowboys, but in time-honoured fashion, the Broncos truly shut the bed and lost 30-10 against the impressive Eagles. I keep being told Denver's only a quarterback away from being a really good team. Is that true?
They're the Broncos. Not the Broncos. They're the bloody Broncos.
I promised Paul I'd keep it in. and the phrase, the Broncos. So that's what we're going with. Are Denver only a quarterback away from being successful, or are there more than one or two pieces still to be made up? Because
Cortland Sutton's been awful this year. He's been a massive disappointment.
Is that because of Teddy?
Maybe. Is it because of the coaching? I don't know. But, every week it's 40 yards. He's supposed to be, one of the best wide receivers. I know he had a bit of an injury.
That's a complete lie. It was 29 yards this week.
Brilliant.
He should have benefited when Jerry Jeudy was out, but he didn't seem to
improve.
I don't think the type of
He
quarterback...
might be in one of my fantasy teams. You might be able to tell that.
I don't think the type of quarterback that they've got there works with his play. Like last year where they were playing with Drew Lock, who can lob the ball long, he was getting those big passes. That's the type of player he is. And Teddy's not that type of quarterback. It's why we're seeing a lot of receptions from Noah Fant, a lot of receptions from Jerry Jeudy, but they're not going very far on average. And that's Teddy's game. I don't think it suits Cortland Sutton. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, he has been. I know he's coming back off injury, but he's been a disappointment.
Noah Fant as well. He has the odd week. That offense just is not firing every week, is it? Their defense sometimes will almost win them the game. And Teddy might have to, get a couple of, touchdowns from good starting field position.
I don't understand
that he can do, but he can't win you games, can he? We've seen that.
No, it's very true.
Completely right. I don't understand this defense where 1 week it can completely shut down the Cowboys, and the next week they're giving 30 points away at home to the Eagles.
That's got to be coaching for me.
Or a wonderfully talented new quarterback for the Eagles.
It's coaching.
It's coaching.
It is coaching, but
I just said that for Jim. So I know how much it hurts him every week to see him get better and better.
He's just not, though.
But he is, though, and he will be the starting quarterback of the Eagles next season.
Good, because I don't like the Eagles.
I don't understand the dislike of him. He's improving in the passing game. His legs are a threat. He's basically... There's only him, Cam Newton, and Lamar who've put up multiple rushing and passing touchdowns over successive games in the last 15 years as rookies.
Yeah.
Technically still
is. All great.
So I don't know what more you want from him.
He can't pass the ball. His passing stats aren't good enough.
Neither could Lamar for the first year or two.
I know.
He can't now.
He can't now either. If Lamar Jackson's forced to pass, like we'll come on to it in this game, he's forced to pass. He can't do it. He can't read the game quickly enough.
Unlike Lamar as well, he does have a wonderful receiver to lob it at.
Yeah.
Because Devontae Smith, a few of those passes,
that catch for the touchdown was spectacular, and it was the catch, not the pass, the catch that was spectacular.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. With regards to the Eagles, they're going to have 3 first-round picks, possibly all in the top 15 come draft time.
Yep.
Assuming that Jalen Hurts will be their quarterback, because I think he will, what are they going to do with
defense?
3 first-round picks?
Defense.
Because they're all about 40.
Well, I mean, they're actually... Okay, if they are going to stick with Jalen Hurts, fair enough. They're quite lucky in the sense that there's no decent quarterbacks coming out this year. There are, however, a lot of edge rushers coming out this year. They can do with someone like that to get to the opposing quarterback. There's also a lot of offensive tackles coming out this year, and they could do with protecting Jalen Hurts a bit more. The reason why he runs so much is because that offensive line is.
He gets about 2 seconds in the pocket. Yeah.
And they're high enough to kind of get a cornerback like Stingley. They're one of the best cornerbacks coming out this year. So that's what you do with those first 3 round picks, first 3 first-round picks.
I like it. Someone's been paying attention to the college game. Darius Slay, the scoop and score. I mean, he's really stepping up now in the middle of the season. This defense was so porous early in the year.
He's a good player. If you couple him with another cornerback and some decent safeties, like there needs to be a lot of work done on this team, and it's a good job they have got a lot of draft capital coming up. So. Because they haven't got much salary caps.
And Vic Fangio slaughtered Teddy for not even attempting a tackle on the turnover.
Too right.
Yeah, I think we all agree. Nobody wants to see quarterbacks get injured making tackles, but you see punters and kickers making attempts when those guys, whilst maybe not worth the money, are probably less physically able. And yet Teddy walked the other way.
I think he almost turned round.
He did.
And just like, oh, it's
And
gone.
he tried to claim he was shepherding the guy into the middle of the field, but he wasn't. He was just running out the way. That's for a guy like Fangio, that's got to be just, it's a killer, because you can't have, that's not a leadership thing. We all said this about Cam in the Super Bowl when he didn't jump on the fumble. As a leader, your first thought, unless you're Tom Brady, who, seems to have not been allowed to do these things, is get the ball back.
You gave it away. Get it back.
I was so disappointed in Teddy, and I really liked Teddy.
Well, I think Teddy and Fangio are both not Broncos next year.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't know what they're going to do, but I suppose you're going to tell me Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. So,
as someone else with brittle knees, though,
chance.
I would jump out the way.
You wouldn't jump.
No,
Shuffle.
I'd shuffle out the way.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, the Eagles' result won't have gone unnoticed by John and the Giants fans, whose team managed to lose the bye week, especially given that what the fuck produced upset of the week with a 29-19 victory over the Bucks and Tom Brady. Heineke turned up, played really well. The Washington defense actually played very well and lost Chase Young on the same week that they put Montez Sweat on IR with a broken jaw. Chase Young has, it was ACL. But it actually didn't make too much difference on the day. It was bizarre. It was Brady's worst ever defeat coming off a bye, and they just didn't look ready. It's strange. Last year they came off the bye and then cruised to 10 wins out of the last 11 games. Nothing in this game. Just didn't get going.
It's going to become a cliche now, but where's his run game?
Yeah, the run
Ronald
game
James
is
nobody. Leonard
Jones.
Fournette. What did I say?
James.
Oh, sorry.
He was looking at me at the time.
Oh, sorry. Well, Ronald Jones is an yeah.
Yeah. It is an
Fournette.
Jones and Fournette on there.
Oh,
They've disappeared. Yeah,
haven't they got Bernard?
they had 13.
Jair
runs.
Bernard, who dropped an easy reception as well, which would have moved them up the field.
I mean, it's a
They
great.
had 13 rushes in this game, and one of them was by Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's not enough.
And when you're missing,
Antonio Brown was out.
Antonio Brown,
Gronk is out.
Yeah.
Hold up.
Godwin's injured.
I don't think you can put this on the run game. Like, Brady has been epic for me in fantasy this year, but he threw 2 early interceptions.
Nearly three.
Yeah.
And that meant that they're chasing points all game. You see that stat every time if teams are chasing games. You can't. Don't get me wrong, the run game is poor. But they didn't lose this game because of that. They lost this game because Brady just decided to throw the ball around at the start of the game.
I do agree with you that they were chasing points, but that was in the first quarter. They had time was on their side. It wasn't like
this isn't the Cowboys he's playing.
Yeah.
It's the fucking
Brady's nearly
football
50.
team.
You cannot say time is on his side ever.
That's true. I don't have the stat in front of me, but wasn't it the first time he'd thrown 2 first quarter interceptions since 2002? It's like
Possibly.
it was some insane
well
stat.
do, yeah.
Yeah, it was basically everything they planned to do fell apart in that first quarter, and they didn't have an answer. And it was one of Heineke's best games since the last time he played the Bucks.
I thought it was one of Washington's best games. I think they got the game plan absolutely right.
And they completely iced it when Riverboat Ron turned up towards the end of the game, and they went for it on 4th and 3.
Their fourth quarter drive, I think it was like 10 minutes and 20-second drive.
Yeah.
10 minutes in the fourth quarter, you've just taken it off.
And this year, the season has been a bit crazy. From like about 24th to like 10th, there's about 2 games covering the whole league.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
So I don't think it's a very predictable league. I don't know quite what the reason is for that. Whether it's just that there's a lot of change at key positions, a lot of new coaches, so there's not as much consistency. There's not quite as much identity in some of these teams, but it is all over the place this year. It's really hard to predict. Our predictor league,
It's gone off a fucking cliff.
We're getting like 5 or 6 results right, and we're looking at some of them going, they're clearly a banker, and they're just, it's all over the place this year.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson did expose the Bucks' run defense, which has been vaunted all season. He played very well, considering he's got this damaged shin.
Well, Vita Vea hasn't been fully fit for the last couple of weeks, and that's literally a massive piece of their defense. I mean, without him, that defensive front line, it loses so much because he's literally the anchor. He's literally the anchor of a 4-3 defense. So the run defense has been brilliant. He's out. There's no replacement. So Antonio Gibson, his average yards per carry wasn't great. It was 2.7. Not sure how many cocks per carry that is. We've
Without Paul here,
we lost our stats. Dirty stats, man.
But almost every single one of the yards that he has was such an important yard in terms of like getting 2 yards when you're 4th and 1 is a lot more important than getting 5 yards when you're 1st and 10.
And it was time off the clock with the run game. That was the key thing. We should note as well, Fitzmagic seemingly done for the season, back on crutches.
Yeah, done for his
career.
It looks that way. Fair enough.
It's a really sad way to see him go out, though. You'd like to see him go out with a crowd.
Yeah,
to appreciate him.
Like, what just swigging whiskey?
Like 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Yeah, something like that.
That's
medallion on, chest hair out.
It's a really poor
He's been
way
a figure
to go.
of fun, but
Playboy model on his arm.
No one deserved to go out as a proper old man with a damaged hip from a fall. You know what I mean? Like that's not what you wanted at all.
Although if Drew Brees doesn't get to go out of a crowd, I'm sorry, Fitzmagic doesn't deserve to go out of a crowd.
It's a fair point.
Yeah, fair point. Well made. Completing a great week for the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys corrected their course and put a whooping on the Falcons, 43-3. This one was as ugly as it gets. The Cowboys just could do nothing wrong in this game, and the Falcons could do nothing.
Right.
Yeah, just nothing.
They played Josh Rosen in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
He went 1 for 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
He got one.
He got one completed pass for 14 yards. That's how the Falcons got to the 4th quarter. And, they could have got to the end of the 1st quarter, I think, and gone, it's not looking good. By half time, it was 36-3.
It reminded me of that Simpsons meme of "Stop, he's already dead."
My favourite story about this was the fact Mike McCarthy apparently gave the players monkey butt.
Yes,
Have
I
you
saw
read
this. Monkey butt.
Monkey
so it's
butt.
a powder to stop chafing of your butt.
Because you're going to work so hard.
Yeah.
So, but again, good bounce back, isn't it? And they're a great team, the Cowboys this year. Scarily good.
We said last week it was an anomaly last week.
Yeah.
This is
this was their largest margin of victory since 1996.
I think this might help them.
Yeah.
That one loss might
a humbling helps every so often.
Yeah, I do wonder if come end of the season they'll look back on that and go, right, that's what focused our minds.
Yeah, it didn't help the Falcons that Cordero Patterson was not able to be Cordero Patterson this week. It made Matt Ryan look completely impotent. That's clearly where he'd been focusing, and defenses have been looking squarely at Patterson and no one else. And without him and Calvin Ridley, who's still out for this personal mental health reason, there was nothing. Like, Matt Ryan's been playing really well, and then just disappeared again because
Pitts hasn't kicked on either, has he? He had a good couple of games. He's gone quiet
he's
again.
Up and down. I don't know what's he on, about 500 receiving yards for the season.
Yeah, he's doing really well still.
But
for
it's
his
the rookie
season.
tight end.
He's in a shit team.
Yeah.
Let's not. There's no point.
I wouldn't go that far. I think the Falcons have been playing quite well given the talent they've got on the roster. Like, they're 4-5. That's not to be sniffed at. And they've beaten some good teams along the way. They've beaten some bad teams as well.
I wouldn't be surprised though if they finish with 4 wins.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's entirely possible.
I think that one of the biggest factors here, Mike McCarthy gave the game ball to Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator. Obviously, the previous head coach at the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah,
he knows Matt Ryan's game inside and out.
Yeah, he just took everything away that Matt Ryan did.
Everything away.
And if you see Matt Ryan starting to run, you know the game is falling apart for the Falcons because he can't. That's not a thing. He's still a great pocket passer.
Yeah, I've not looked at it, but I would say that's probably his worst statistical game ever. He had 9 for 21.
0.68 fantasy points. Yeah. Imagine if you won your fantasy game starting Matt Ryan. Hello.
Because you had the
Cowboys defense who scored 21 points.
Error.
Trayvon Diggs' 8th interception of the season. He's on course still to break the interception record. And the Cowboys, they got Michael Gallup back this week. When they have Gallup, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke, and Pollard and Dak,
Schultz.
Is that the best offensive?
He scores touchdowns.
Yeah, is that the best offensive group of weapons that any coach has got at their disposal?
I think the Bucs have got to be close just because their wide receiving core is that good.
But their running back is
game
not.
Isn't that
You
good.
say that. Fournette can bully teams as they get tired.
He can. He's just inconsistent.
That's what I mean. So I think it's so close.
It's close. That's why I'm asking the question. I think the Cowboys have
Rams,
the best.
Henderson.
You take Zeke over Henderson.
You would, but I'm just talking total package.
Yeah. Bet you are.
Haven't got as many wide receivers now either.
Gary Brown, total package. Is that your biography?
It's been said. That's all I'm
By
saying.
who?
You.
Oh.
I'll take the Cowboys. I'll take the Cowboys' offensive line over a lot of people's as well.
Yeah.
I think
On paper, this is probably the best squad in football right now.
I think so. Right. Defeats for the Bucs and the Falcons meant the Panthers and the Saints had the opportunity to claw their way back into the NFC South race. The Saints came up short, losing 21-23 to the now reliable Tetons, which have the longest winning streak in the league right now. And the Panthers, they did make it. They gave us plenty to discuss, overturning the favourite Cardinals 34-10 with Cam Newton back behind the wheel. So, first things first, Saints losing to the Tetons. Trevor Siemian didn't do anything wrong in this game. Alvin Kamara was out. They just a weapon short. And the Titans are just rolling enough.
The Titans' defense is playing really well.
It's just turned up at the right time.
It's been really key with Henry not being there. The offense has had to find another way. AJ Brown's still a bit quiet, even with Julio out.
Yeah, it's not been a consistent season for him at all.
Julio's on injured reserve now.
Julio's out for at
the
least
next
3 weeks.
No Julio, no Henry, and he's still struggling a little bit.
Who's the kicker for the Saints? Because the key thing from this game was they missed 2 extra points. And I don't think it was their regular kicker. I can't think now who it was, and I didn't write it down. But
the kicker is Brian Johnson, and I haven't just made that name up.
Brian Johnson. So some nobody. Exactly. That really cost them because the Saints, because of where they are without Winston, without Kamara this week, although is he scheduled to come back next week? I believe so.
It was quite late. That was announced.
Late,
It was, yeah.
I managed to.
And in all fairness, Mark Ingram played really well without him.
He's been brilliant since he came back.
And I think they will
Mark
time
Ingram's now he holds the record for the most running yards. It's the franchise record for the most running yards for Saints.
Which was incredible, and it's great to see him back there. It really is. But they basically have to play mistake-free football to do anything now, the Saints. They have to. Trevor Siemian has to be a mistake-free quarterback, which, on the whole...
I was going to say, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
No.
I don't remember him...
He's very Alex Smith.
The way he's playing at the moment, I'd almost take him over Winston.
I think for what the Saints want to do, I think he makes much more sense than Winston, because Winston's having to play a game that is not naturally his, whereas Siemian looks more at home doing 4-yard.
He is happy to be
passes.
told by Sean Payton, this is what we're doing on this particular play.
Yeah.
Whereas Winston, you always think, is waiting to break out and throw the bomb. And Simeon's not going to do that. And I'm, I think that is working, but it has to be mistake-free. We always said the same about Alex Smith. If it's mistake-free, the teams will win because he won't cost them the game.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing.
And it's not. I mean, it's not a denigration against Winston. I think that he's shown actually in the few weeks that he's got a future as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's with the Saints at the moment because
doesn't feel like the right team.
Doesn't feel like the right team. I think, someone who's willing to let him go a bit more, I think might get the best out of him.
There was another really bad officiating call in this where the Saints got an interception.
Yeah.
And literally a millisecond after Ryan Tannehill had thrown the ball, he was grazed on his back and went down, and it was called for roughing the passer, head-to-head contact. No contact was made with the head. At what point does the NFL say, hang on, I know we want to protect quarterbacks, and I know that head injuries are an important thing, and we have to make it as safe as possibly can, but at what point can we start treating quarterbacks the same as we treat other players?
I'll tell you what, never.
Yeah. It feels that way. That
Died in the wool now.
That was a terrible.
It was a terrible call, but we're just going to. They're not going to make the.
The problem they've got themselves into is with this ticky-tacky nature of protecting people is they haven't made that play reviewable because they say it's a judgment call. So then
make it judged by someone in front of a TV.
Yeah. So then basically you're going to struggle. What they need to do is let that play continue, see what happens, and then while everyone's celebrating whatever's happened, then make a decision. Don't just blow the whistle straight away. Once the incidental contact has happened, it's happened. So what difference does it matter whether you let it go for another 5 seconds? I thought it was a very strange thing to do. The Saints are still in this for me, but it's going to take a hell of a coaching job.
The defense keeps them in it because I think the defense is that good.
Yeah, and they'll get Kamara back.
And it's the same with the Tetons. We should mention their defense. Is it? His name now escapes me.
Harold Landry.
Harold Landry. 10 and a half sacks on the season now. Just they've stepped up at exactly the right time. It's incredible. They're getting nothing out of the running game without Derrick Henry, which is to be expected. Although if Donta Foreman is available in your fantasy league, go and get him because he's clearly going to be the number one running back there, and with Henry out, because Adrian Peterson did nothing this week.
I mean,
no one did anything.
No, I mean, as
Jeremy
someone
McNichols, the other one.
As someone who desperately needs a running back in his fantasy league, I still won't be touching.
Oh no,
Donta
no.
Foreman.
I mean, you do desperately need one, but no, not him. No, that's fine. Right, come on. Let's talk about the fun that we had with the Panthers. PJ Walker started the game and then was immediately out of the game and replaced by Cam Newton, whose very first touch, I believe, was to run in for a touchdown.
His first two touches,
and
were
second touch,
and
was to throw.
And second touch was to throw a touchdown. He had 2 more or 3 more passes after that, not a lot. But the signs are there. He's going to be starting next week. PJ Walker, we were laughing.
all right.
But he actually played all right. The interception he threw was bad. Other than that, everything he did was fine. It helped.
He was the second best quarterback that we saw in that game.
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was.
There were 4 quarterbacks
in
play on this game.
Chris
Streveler,
the Canadian version of Ryan Fitzpatrick, basically.
What is it, the Grey Cup?
He won the Grey Cup
yeah.
in Canada. Yeah, it's not going to work for him. Kyler was out, and this seemed to be a game time decision. Basically, I think Kingsbury thought he could beat the Panthers without Kyler Murray, and it turned out Colt McCoy, there's a reason why he hasn't won back-to-back games since 2011, weeks 2 and 3. It's because he's crap. So when he won last week, we should have known.
I don't know what the Panthers' defense is really good.
Yeah.
It has been really good all year. The Panthers have only been let down by quarterback play. The rest of the team is really good. That defense is a top 10 defense.
Yeah, with McCaffrey back as well. The Panthers had I think they could afford to take him out the game later on because when you're so far ahead, why do you risk?
Yeah, he only had 13 carries.
Yeah,
I think
still 9.
Darnold's in trouble. I think.
Darnold's not in trouble. He'll never be a Panther again.
I don't think
you're never going to see him.
I've got a feeling he's never going to be a starting quarterback again.
I think you could be right.
Anyone want to take a guess at how much the Panthers have paid quarterbacks in total, starting quarterbacks in total, last year and this year? 2 years worth of
22 million.
Combined.
No more than that.
How much has been committed to quarterbacks?
48 million.
Oh,
closer.
Okay. No, I don't know. Cool.
60.6 million.
Oh,
wow.
Because even Teddy, and Sam, they got to pay Darnold, for next year.
18 million next year. Yeah.
Even Cam Newton's coming in on
10 million, isn't it?
4.5.
Well, 4.5
million guaranteed.
Yeah,
but 10 million if he
makes the playoffs and things. Yeah.
That's a lot of money to have.
Also, the Patriots were paying him $1 million last year.
Yeah, but you think about you're paying for a $30 million quarterback. You'd expect a better quarterback.
Yeah, and we looked it up. If
that's Cousins,
if he hadn't been cut, he'd have Cam would have only been on $2 million.
Yeah.
At the Patriots. So he got fired and got a pay rise.
Yeah,
5 times.
And fair play to him.
No.
I'm not sure that you're going to see much of a different Cam than you saw at the start of last year. I don't think he's suddenly going to be a better quarterback.
No, but you look at what Darnold was doing well at the start of the season. It was running in touchdowns. Yeah. What does Cam do?
That's exactly where I was going. You've now got Christian McCaffrey, threat, Cam, threat, and they can play to that strength. He might only be able to do 4 and 5 yard passes, but if the opposition is constantly looking for the run, that can be enough.
And fucking Robbie Anderson caught
a touchdown.
I know, Stonehands Anderson.
The week after I dropped him. Because he's been useless.
Yeah, it's been useless.
He's been useless for all season. And, Cam just wanders back in, sort of wheels out to the right and just dunks a ball in his hand.
Breaks John's heart.
Again. What would you do with Sam Darnold? Are they cutting him? What are they going to do? You can't just sit on the bench at 18 million.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
They've got to pay him the 18 million. Whatever happens, they've got to pay him. So you might as well keep him and have him on the bench.
If he's in the building,
PJ Walker can go, can't he?
Yeah.
I think PJ Walker's the right backup for Cam. That's the problem. So if Cam's there next year,
if he's cheap,
he is cheap.
Well, then he goes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You wait and see if anyone will come in for Darnold, didn't you?
You see, the thing
with
is,
the Saints,
I don't think anyone is going to come in for Darnold just because it's 18 million and he's been terrible. But he's not the type of player that's going to kick up a fuss on the bench, is he? Like he's not.
No.
He's not showing an ounce of kind of character, really.
He'd be happy just not to be hit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you saw
they might have to pay him and then trade him, or
Yeah, I think that could happen. But you saw when Cam came into the game how much the team are around him, but also on the touchline, he was doing team talks. Afterwards, the team are saying how much energy he brings to the locker room.
You can see it.
That's what this team needs.
Yeah.
They basically erased their mistakes of this and last season of quarterbacks by bringing Cam back, who Matt Rule got rid of when he first got there and said, I don't want him. So
I think at the time that was fair. He was injured. He was probably past it. It's a new regime coming in and start again. It's a different story now, isn't it?
I mean, to get rid of him, we all felt was the right decision to bring him back in.
Let's just remember who the Panthers want, because they want Deshaun Watson.
yes, that is
Deshaun
true,
Watson wants to go to Miami, but they want Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's true. And this feels like another stopgap. But if it's a stopgap that helps you,
I think Deshaun Watson. I think they've been absolute. It's been absolutely apparent they want him. Yeah. But what about if you put Russell Wilson in there or Aaron Rodgers in there? Because both of those quarterbacks could be on the move, likely to be on the move at the end of the season.
I don't see Rodgers going to Carolina.
Why not? That defense and those weapons around him.
I think he'll go wherever he wants to go, Aaron Rodgers.
Well, yeah, but
Jim, have you got the Cardinals schedule?
I have, because you just told me to put it up.
Yeah, I did. What are the next 3 games?
Next 3 games, they are at the Seahawks, they are at the Bears, and then they are home to the Rams.
Conceivably, they could lose 2 of those.
You could ask that question
No.
every time
What
about any team
what I
in
want
the
to know
NFC
is
West and just go, well, the next 3 games, oh, they're tough. Of course they are. There's one of the NFC West against them.
If Kyler and Hopkins are not back for the Bears game, they could also lose that.
They could, but they shouldn't.
So what I want to know is, are they safe at 8-2 at the top of the division?
They're in.
Yeah, they're in. They are in.
I don't know they're going to come in top, but they're definitely in the playoffs.
I think they've got to play the Seahawks twice, and I don't think the Seahawks are very good at the moment.
No.
Nor in the future, because I don't think the team, even with Russell Wilson, is as good as the Arizona team. They've got to play the Lions, and they've got to play the Colts.
Yeah, that'll help. That'll help anyone. Also, introducing James Conner, leading the league in touchdowns. 12 touchdowns already this season.
Yeah. He's been a machine.
He's not racking up a lot of yards, but he is racking up a lot of scores.
Well, he hasn't been because Chase Edmonds has been doing all the work, and then he's been running the touchdown. But Chase Edmonds is now injured.
Correct.
So Connors is now doing very, very well, which is great for my dynasty team.
Yeah, same.
So we think we see Kyler back next week.
That's what they're not committing, but I mean, if they want to win the game, yes, he has to come back.
And D-Hop?
I don't know about that one. So.
I don't know about that one either. That was a.
I don't think he's quite
Another
as
omission.
vital. I know it's a crazy thing to say, but I really don't think he is.
I think if you've got one of them on the field, you've got a very good chance of winning.
I think as long as you've got Colt McCoy on the side, you've got a chance.
Even with Chris Trevler in play.
Well, I'm not sure. Chris Trevler did not look good.
He didn't look good.
Because he's not good.
But yeah.
I would take Jalen Hurts over Chris Trevler.
As someone who saw Colt McCoy last year, I can tell you it's not a surprise he's not a good quarterback.
No, that's very true. With the division-leading Cardinals losing, Monday Night Football's game between the Niners and the Rams took on even more significance, and boom! The Niners produced their best game of the season to condemn the Rams to a second straight loss, riding the running game and the awesome Deebo Samuel. Gary, what more do you want out of your Niners and your super head coach?
Well, look, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon that he's a genius again just because of one game. So divisional games are always, you can't judge them as much because the teams know each other very well. They stuck with the run, which was nice to see, and that was what Shanahan was great at, last year, 2 years ago, was just mixing up run plays, scheming it all over the place. That's what made us exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you've got, Ayuk doesn't still look great, if we're honest. But if you've got Deebo that is there as a threat, and most importantly, you've got Kittle back, and starting to get fit. So those things are making the team look better. But they don't still address my wider concerns. One, that he wears a stupid cap all the time, like he's some sort of kid playing Lego or something. It pisses me right off. You're being paid millions of dollars. Just grow the fuck up a little bit. Honestly, it drives me mad. And he just...
Don't they all wear caps?
He wears it all the time. Every interview you watch, he's wearing a cap. All like one of them little proper, whatever they're called, New Era ones or something.
They all do. Even Pete Carroll wears them.
He does it all the time.
Pete Carroll's 83 years old and sat there. Like, I think the only one I don't see wearing a cap is Bill Belichick.
He wears a hoodie.
But he doesn't even. But he doesn't even wear fucking sleeves.
Looks like he's just walked away from a PlayStation. He just winds me up, and I don't know. I'm done with it. He's had one good year out of the whole thing, and like. If he doesn't get off to a good start next year, he just needs to go because I've had enough of it.
I've agreed with a lot of Gary's criticisms of Shanahan this year, but this week it's felt thumbed in. Like, he's thumbing a softie there.
Don't agree with the cap.
I don't agree that you have your best performance of the year, and you go, yeah, but he's wearing a cap, and what a.
Many teams struggle with cap issues, but not that sort of cap. It's just this is not a problem, Gary.
My point is, like, it's a great victory. Really pleased with the result.
Or is this a sly dig at Griff's hat he's currently wearing?
Bloody cold in here.
It is cold in here.
It is cold in here. Somebody's wife didn't bother to turn the heating on for us in the doghouse.
That is true.
What I said last week was they lacked an identity. They seemed to lack a game plan. They seemed to have gone away from what they were doing over the last 2 years. Last night, we saw them get absolutely back to that. Run the ball. Work down the clock. Don't let the Rams onto the field. Their first drive was 18 plays, 93 yards, 11 minutes off the clock, and a touchdown. Perfect.
Wasn't your second one 9 minutes long?
It was really good. Our time of possession was 39 minutes.
Is it not just as simple as that OBJ has fucked up the Rams?
No, I don't think it is. We've beaten the Rams.
I'm just like, I'm just fishing.
I will say
49ers have beaten the Rams the last five times.
Yeah, 5 in a row. I will say with OBJ, like, he caught the ball, turned, got 18 yards, and then the next pass that came to him sailed straight over his head and got picked off, and he made absolutely no effort to get the pass, and he could have caught it, he just started to turn the wrong way. I think he did make the tackle to stop it being run back, but this was a second consecutive Stafford 2 interception game. He started the season amazing, and then he's just had this big
MVP,
blip.
Yeah,
and we've seen it
at the Lions a
lot,
yeah.
But we thought that's because the Lions were poor. Is it just that Matt Stafford isn't quite as good as we thought?
I think he's had a blip, but I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about the 49ers.
Yeah, but I could just let you do that for the whole show and we'd never go home.
You could do. So I've got one more point to make about George Kittle. Yes, he's massively important in the passing game. That's absolutely.
And the running game.
Massively important in the running game. There was a great clip of him absolutely destroying Von Miller.
Yeah, he did blow him up.
And Von Miller's not an average player, let's be honest.
And as well, for the running game, the weapon is a beast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When he's pancaking some great defenders. So
Mitchell has just broke his finger, though.
Yeah, which is a shame, but
Niners.
Yeah, it really is.
But he wasn't wearing a cap, so
Jeff Wilson's back, and scheming Debo Samuel.
Was he the fucking gardener? Who the fuck is Jeff Wilson?
Is decent.
Okay.
And Debo Samuel can run the ball as well. We can do everything apparently.
I mean, as well, the cap isn't the most egregious form of bit of clothing that I saw from a 49er this week.
The chain. Yeah.
The chain.
The chain is pretty.
Debo Samuel's chain, which of course is not going to come to bite him in the arse when he has a bad game later in the season.
With regards to the Rams, they do have an issue. So they are 41-0 when leading at half-time under McVay and 6-18 when trailing. Do you remember the terrible Super Bowl where the Patriots beat them? And we got to half-time and everyone said, right, all the Rams have got to do is change this way that they're attacking. And they did not change anything. They could not change.
They don't adjust.
And this is a McVay issue. He, with all the talent, he does not seem to get out of his own way. He can't change mid-game, and that does hold them back. It was the same last week, and it was the same this week. Right, Stafford, drop back, pass, and it's always the same.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Shanahan and McVay have worked together in the past, and Shanahan seems to have his number.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems to not have most of the league's number, but he seems to have his.
You mentioned OBJ.
He's got New Era's
we said
number.
we said about the pass that was picked off, but I've heard a lot, and I had not paid enough attention to this, but I looked into it after I heard several other source materials, references, mentioning the fact that with regards to losing Robert Woods, it's not the receiving player that's the issue. You can replace that with an OBJ. What you can't do is have a player that blocks on the outside like Woods does. So the reason Cup is free a lot of the time is because Woods has come in, thrown the block on the outside, and Cup has moved through the slot and through the space.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Beckham does not do that. He is not going to do that. So this is not a like-for-like replacement. So it may mean that the ball's either got to come out quicker or they've got to use more of the running game.
Every player on that Rams offense, they have a role, a very particular role in terms of, like you mentioned, Woods is there to block. Deshaun Jackson, when he was there to take the top of the defense. Cooper Kupp has his role in kind of medium routes. I thought bringing OBJ in was a luxury, and it was when he came in on Thursday. And it was like, okay, we've got another player who can give us an option.
Very LA style, glitz.
And then when Robert Woods go down, everyone's like, oh, that's fine because we've just got OBJ. Well, no, it's not fine because they're not the same receiver. They don't have the same work ethic. Robert Woods is a leader in that locker room. He's been there for a good few years now, and he's well respected. OBJ, for all he's done in the past, it's in the past. What have you done for me lately? And it's not a lot. So, I think that's a bigger loss than what's being made out to be.
Jim, before we move off from this game, give me the playoff path for the Niners. If they are to make the playoffs...
Jesus, that's a big shout.
Yeah, if they are to make the playoffs... If they go on a run from here, if this is the victory that sparks a bit like the Bucs last year came out there
some
by
fucking Sherpas or something. They're not getting on that path.
They are technically they are in the playoff hunt. Like I think the Panthers currently have the 7th seed at 5-5. We're now 4-5. Our next run of games isn't terrible. But before I go into the next run of games, it would be just like the 49ers to lose the next game because it's against the Jaguars.
No offense. You ain't losing to them.
Consistency is an issue.
If we meet next week and you've lost the Jaguars, I'm getting on that bus with Gary and Shanahan's out.
With a cap on.
Luckily, Gary's not here next week, but he will be wherever he is on holiday.
Don't worry.
With his Shaq Shanahan shirt.
If he's here or not, we're going to hear from him.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've got the Jaguars, then the Vikings, then the Seahawks, then the Bengals, then the Falcons, and then the Titans. It's a big if, but if they can win all those games up to the Titans,
they're winnable games up until the Titans.
Games.
There are 6 victories out of the next 8 games.
Yeah,
there, and the last game of the season is the Rams. So if you've got the Rams number, that could be 7 out of 8. You could conceivably, without too much stretch,
it's
win.
Feasible. I don't see it happening because there is a consistency.
It's
issue.
feasible, but not likely.
Yeah,
feasible.
Yeah,
I think.
It's both feasible and reasonable.
Yeah, feasible.
Reasonable.
I think they'll be in the hunt come beginning of December. I don't think they'll get there.
Elsewhere in the NFC West, the return of Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers for the Seahawks and Packers respectively meant this game was hyped up to the max. That's what the kids say. And what a letdown it was.
Pile of shite.
I know. In inclement weather, Russ failed to heat up at all, let alone cook, as the Seahawks were shut out for the first time in his 10-year tenure, which takes a lot to say. They lost 17-0. Aaron Rodgers played okay, but really this was a nothing game offensively from these two teams. I'm now saying the Seahawks are done. You can stick a fork in them. They look terrible.
Are they 3-6 now?
Yep.
3-6.
It's all over. And I'm not sure where Pete Carroll goes from here because his defence gets worse and worse every year. And if Russ Wilson leaves,
hopefully
it's
fishing.
over.
Fishing.
I think
if you're a Seahawks fan,
I'd be quite happy for him
he
to
can
stay.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with Pete Carroll and that regime all staying and Russell Wilson fucking off to another division.
He won't go there, will he? Because it's down to him.
Russell Wilson.
No, it's down to
Pete
Carroll.
Yeah. Exactly.
I said at the start of the year this will be the last year for Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, and I stand by that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Green Bay basically dominated this game from start to finish.
Defense was awesome.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, as bad as the Seahawks offense were, it was because that Green Bay defense, which has been really good over the last few weeks. Okay, I know Mahomes has had his troubles, but last week they kept the score down in Kansas. They're all playing, and they've got injuries as well. Jay Alexander's out. Za'Darius Smith is out. But they're all playing really well. This is the best defense I've seen in Green Bay for quite some time.
And they are due back before the end of the season, aren't they? Jay Alexander, I think when he comes back, that will be quite a scary defense.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Rodgers' best chance to win a Super Bowl for 4 or 5 years, and conceivably could get to the Super Bowl, then obviously potentially win it, and then just bugger off. Like, that actually is a world we're living in. If I was the Packers, whoever it is who's in charge, I'd be saying, Aaron, what do you want? What do we need to do now?
I think if he wins it, he's more likely to leave.
Yeah.
Actually.
Okay, yeah, maybe. But would he just retire then?
I don't think he would.
I think if he wins it, I could see him retiring.
Yeah, me too. I think he'd just go and host TV shows.
Yeah.
No, because to be on Fox and NBC, and you need to be vaccinated, so he literally can't be on TV. So
he's got some immunity though from having COVID.
He can go and host Jeopardy. That's what he wants to do.
What channel's Jeopardy on?
I don't know, but that's what he did before, so I assume he can go back and do it. Elite Aaron Jones was injured in this game, and they didn't miss him because AJ Dillon is a beast.
Yeah.
He ran over that Seahawks defense and he took Bobby Wagner into the end zone. No one does that.
The news on Aaron Jones is it's not long term, so he should be back at some point. But yeah, I mean, you can afford to rest him if AJ Dillon plays like that. He is huge.
Yeah.
Is
like,
he not the heaviest
he's the
running
heaviest
back?
running back. He's Derrick Henry size. Like,
Feast
I know,
mode.
we shouldn't make that comparison because Derrick Henry is looking amazing. But you could see AJ Dillon taking on that type of role.
He had to do it last year because Aaron Jones got injured in the leading up to the playoff run, and I think Dillon started in the playoffs, and he did fine. He's a passable in terms of backup running backs. He'd
be starting on half a dozen other teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
At least. Bad Mason Crosby's back. So at one point he'd gone like over a year without missing a field goal. Now he's missed 3 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 6 in 11 or something he's missed. 6 in 11
6
kicks.
in 11. They stuck by him before when he went through a bad spell, but
They should sack him.
I think
don't
they'll
know.
keep him.
I think they'll keep him.
I'm in full sack 'em mode.
You
Just
are.
sack him.
Gary's all about the sack.
But I think if it doesn't get any better throughout the rest of the season, they'll let him go at the end of the season.
I worry because when it gets to playoffs, it's going to be really tight games, and he's probably going to go out with a crowd booing him for missing again.
One more bad game and he has got to
He
go.
does seem to have gone full Vinatieri towards the end. It's not good.
How old is he again? 37.
37, yeah. So
Quite old.
like us, not you. You're 36, aren't you?
No, I'm 37.
Are you 37 now as well? Oh, there you go. Quite old. Like us.
John's 38.
I'm going to sit and die into the corner.
Jim's just keeping quiet. So out of these two teams, which one is most likely to have the same quarterback next season?
Neither.
Neither.
No, you've got to pick
Wilson.
one. Get off the fence.
Seahawks, but neither.
I'm going to say Green Bay, actually.
I think Green Bay as well.
I think if you're going to, I agree. I don't think either will. But if you're going to make me choose, I think it's
I
Green
am.
Bay.
I think
I think Wilson's gone.
Where's he going?
New York. He's going to be He's going to be on the Giants. Russell Wilson is going to go to New York.
Wholeheartedly agree.
His wife wants to go to New York. John can't wait. He'll be so happy.
Right, his
He's
wife
a
wants him
Yankee.
to go to New York.
he's
He's a Yankee.
He's a Yankee.
Yeah.
Still. And Daniel Jones is shit.
We've got draft capital.
Yeah. I absolutely think he's going to the
Thank
Giants.
you, Bears.
And I think it's entirely more conceivable that Rodgers stays in Green Bay if they sack Brian Gutekunst and tell him he can have some.
But I don't know.
I
don't know why they would. I mean, okay, yeah, we know he hasn't drafted wide receivers, but we've just been lauding AJ Dillon.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great pickup. What was that? Third round
Sacking
pick.
Gutekunst is only because that's what Aaron Rodgers wants.
Yeah, but look at the rest of the team. And I mentioned the defense. The stat I pulled up earlier, which I forgot to mention, which I will mention now, they're something like over the last 7 games conceded 13.9 points per game, which is amazing. And that's the defense he's built. It was shit a couple of years ago, and now it's great. So
if they can find a way to work together, that would be great. But I just
No,
don't
but
see
they're
either
not.
of them
even
backing
like they
down.
have to work together. It's the GM and the quarterback. If it was the coach and the quarterback, I could understand it. But he doesn't have to have anything to do with Gutekunst.
What we've seen the last couple of weeks, especially, is a reminder that this
He's a
guy
dick.
is a dick and has a massive ego. And I think if he wins the Super Bowl, he'll want to go somewhere else and prove he can still win the Super Bowl. And it's because of him, not because of the team around him. And if he can
that's
get,
why I think he'll go.
and if he could get
Broncos.
a Broncos, I think he elevates 3/4 of the teams. Quite frankly,
Absolutely.
I mean,
I will never deny he's one of the greatest quarterbacks we've had the privilege to watch on the field. But the guy is a cock.
Oh, he's an absolute dickhead.
That's
But
what-
he's a great player,
Yeah.
and actually, I think the ego is why he won't be on the Packers
Yeah.
next year, because
yeah.
the relationship's burnt, and he wants to go out now and prove he is right.
So everyone keeps telling me he's going to end up most likely with Denver because it's a team that looks like it's almost ready to win. My concern with that is John Elway's still there in the background. He also has a massive
He's
input.
he's
Only
in the background. He gets further away
Yeah.
every
But
year.
they don't have anyone stably in charge. Not really. It's not a well-run organisation anymore.
They've got this. It's the first year with the GM, and I don't think the draft was terrible.
No.
You're right. Elway's there in the background, and yes, he's got an ego, but he managed to fit that ego in the same room as Peyton Manning, who's got a massive head.
He has got a massive head, an actual massive head. Yeah, okay, fine. I'm just not sure. I think I still think there's a good chance that he stays in Green Bay. But
I reckon at most it's a slight chance, and it revolves around people with big egos saying, I was wrong, which doesn't happen.
that's very true. Okay, let's leap across to the AFC now. And in the East, the leaders, Buffalo, donkey punched the Jets into submission and made Mike White look like Nate Peterman in a 45-17 win.
Donkey punched.
It was mainly for Paul, but he's not here and I forgot to take it out. This is the most points that the Bills had put on the Jets since 1979. We even saw Joe Flacco in this game. So the Mike White experience was over after 1.25 games. Or two and a quarter games. It was terrible. He was awful.
Shock horror. Reserve quarterback for the Jets who's bounced around 3 teams after being undrafted is a bad quarterback.
Man who thinks he should have been first overall pick turns out to be crap.
Man who thought he should have been a first overall pick in a draft where we have probably 3 genuine starters and 2 potential MVP quarterbacks thinks he should have been the first overall pick and throws 4 interceptions. I know you've got to have confidence in yourself, mate, but have a word.
I am already out on the Salah experience. This defense is given up over the 4-game stretch the second most amount of points of all time. The 2008 Titans,
I think it was 6.
2006 Titans then, are the only team that's given up more points in any 4-game stretch. This is awful.
Are we not just overthinking it a little bit?
Yeah.
Because the Bills are good.
Yeah.
Jets are terrible. Salah isn't having a good first year. He doesn't have very many good players. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. And I know I didn't watch the game or anything, but literally, the Jets are shit every week,
Every year.
every year. They're irrelevant.
It's 11 seasons.
All we ever say nice about them is, "Oh, I quite like that dark green shirt."
I really do like
Do
that.
you
That
like
is
it? Yeah.
that's literally all we
It's
ever
11
say.
seasons since they put a good product on the field. And they've had one winning season since then, I think.
Like the Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. Well, they didn't make the playoffs, obviously.
I think actually getting rid of Salah's the wrong decision.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's been given a shit team. I mean, as well, it was a Gase team. They've had they've flipped it and gone with a defensive coach, not really given the coach the players he needs. Of course, that being the right decision will be not what they do. They'll fire him and do an
I'm
about
not sure
turn.
they will fire him, but what I will say is show me where the progress is on this team this season. Show
none.
me anyway.
There's
none.
Because you and I, John, have been very hot on Urban Meyer being crap. And I will tell you Robert Saleh is doing as equally a bad job, if not worse.
I don't think Urban Meyer will get sacked either.
I think Urban Meyer has a better team,
Yeah.
and it's a poison chalice.
I
This
think
whole
the two teams are very similar. I don't.
I
think there's a lot more better players on the Jaguars than there is the Jets.
well, okay, Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
Neither.
Well, no, but
No.
Trevor
Yeah, yeah,
Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor
Zach
Lawrence is a
Wilson's
good
been terrible.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson is
We don't know, but
is the
what we've
baddie in
seen-
a
yeah,
Disney film.
We don't know what Zach Wilson can do, but what we've seen it hasn't been good so far.
Yeah, that's true. And he may well be back next week.
Yeah.
Carter's good.
Carter's been on
Carter's
the up.
good,
Yeah.
but I would take Robinson over Carter.
Yeah.
Apparently Urban Meyer wouldn't.
Urban Meyer probably wouldn't.
We'll get to them in a minute. That's fine. That's fine.
I think there are a lot more defensive pieces
Yeah.
on the Jaguars than there are on the Jets. I don't think there's anything on the Jets outside CJ Mosley. On
Quinnen
the defensive
Williams.
side of the ball.
Right.
Quinnen Williams has been all right.
He's-
But remember, what was he, fourth overall.
Oh, yeah,
pick.
it's not.
But this is my point. They're not getting anything out of the talented players they do have. Salah has not developed
We've
anything.
named 3.
Yeah, it's got to be better. This guy was so overhyped. But that said, Gary's right. Let's just leave that where it is. Buffalo's done well. They've turned it round. And they'll probably go on and pile up a few more wins now because this is the get-right game for them.
Josh Allen is now Bookie's favourite for MVP.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Meanwhile...
It was Lamar a week ago before he was terrible.
Meanwhile, the Pats put up 45 of their own in an impressive display of the season, creaming the Browns, which sounds nasty, 45-7. The Browns led 7-0 after about 4 minutes and then scored 0 points from that point. And the Patriots just did what we've seen in most years, where they just took a bad team and beat up on them.
This concerns me because
It's genuinely concerned.
I am.
Was there a cap issue?
No cap issue. It's just
Because no fucking cap.
there's just a
The issue because he's not got a
Patriots
cap.
might being okay issue, which I don't really like.
No.
The defense looks really good, and the offense is going run first and has generally been better and better each week. And that really concerns me that I might have to watch them in the playoffs again. And
I think you will have to watch.
I think you will, yeah.
You know,
Patriots put up 452 yards, which was 142 yards more than the Browns did conceded on average.
because what are the Bills? 6-3, and the Patriots are 6-4 now,
Yeah, we've lost one more game.
Which
We haven't-
is-
and we've got to play them twice.
which is horrific for me to have to witness.
Look, there's been a lot of people jumping on the Patriots bandwagon. It's
I
not...
saw a power ranking with them in the top 10 now.
Yeah, it's too much, right? We've got to play the Titans, the Bills twice, and somebody else fairly good as well in the next
You'll beat the
5
Titans.
weeks.
You'll beat the Titans. I think you will.
I don't know. What I'm saying is I don't think it's been the sternest test so far. Texans and the Jets twice are 3 of those victories. So I'm still not ready to
lost
join
to
the
Miami
bandwagon.
as well.
But what I haven't heard is anybody saying that Mac Jones is in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I think he should be.
He's
Nah.
getting up there.
He's got to be.
I think Jamar Chase is
Chase.
probably still number one.
Yeah, but if they continue to lose and he continues to not play
I
so
mean,
well,
he's had his last 2 games before the bye weren't amazing. So I think, if he doesn't pick up again after the bye, I think Matt Jones is in a chance, especially if they get to the playoffs.
got to be. His completion percentage is ridiculous. His turnovers are limited. He's basically just playing complementary football to the running game, which is all that any Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick offense wants you to do.
He's the perfect player for Bill Belichick because he's come from effectively a Bill Belichick system in Alabama where Nick Saban tells him what to do. He does it. He doesn't do anything on his own, and that's fine. And that's what Bill Belichick wants. Don't go out there and be Cam Newton and change things at the lines. We've got a game plan in place. We've got this plan in place because we know it works. Follow the plan. All right, boss. Off he goes and does it.
He's a nerd.
Do you know one quarterback in this game at the weekend completed three passes for 85 yards and a touchdown?
Yeah.
It was Brian Hoyer. No one can see Gary's face except us. But he allowed
I've got nothing else to say.
Jacoby Myers to score his first touchdown. It was the most receptions by any receiver ever without scoring a touchdown. He had like 139 receptions. So that was his first.
It's like John with the most
134.
number of Tinder dates before he got it.
That is a brilliant analogy.
That's hard. But if Myers now goes on a run, there's every chance you could as well. You could be
Doubt
scoring left, right, and centre. Hunter Henry has finally come to play. He's scored touchdowns in the last 5 of the last 6 games, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we always say that the Patriots don't play well in September because they use September as a warm-up month, effectively. It's been well documented. And now I think all those new players that have come into the team are starting to gel. Like we saw more from Kendrick Bourne at the
It
weekend.
was a great catch, by the way.
Amazing catch.
It double covered, and that is the best pass that Matt Jones has thrown all season, into double coverage.
Yeah.
It was absolutely pinpoint. Do you think the Patriots can overhaul the Bills in this division?
No.
Well, they can.
They
because
can,
They're a
yeah.
game
Do you
back.
think they
yeah.
will?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't know. I think the Bills' defense and its run game is not quite as good as everyone makes out, and I just don't know. The Bills have been very inconsistent. That's why they're at 6-3.
Yeah.
I do think the Patriots can beat the Bills.
Yeah,
I think
Because
we'll
I think-
probably split with them.
I think
I
think you will, but I think the Titans showed how to beat the Bills, and Belichick would just go, right, okay, let's do that.
So I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a.
I don't know either.
Coin toss.
This was not something I was expecting to have to discuss this season, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Right, Baker got hurt again. Baker got hurt again. He didn't play well again.
It's because he's already hurt.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be playing.
That's fine. But
he should not be playing.
It's contract decision time. They are going to let him play through the 5th year without signing him, aren't they?
Well,
they're not going to give him a long-term deal, no.
They've got one more year. They pick up the 5th year option.
They've picked up the 5th year option.
Right, so they've got one more year to make up their mind.
Yeah, and then they can just
bin him off.
Or just keep him
on a franchise tag.
Yeah, on the tag him.
Yeah, which is what's likely to happen. And are the Browns' playoff hopes over? Or are they? Or is it still just so tight?
Because it's too tight in the AFC North. It's one game between them all?
It's one game between them. The problem I think the Browns have got is they've been losing to teams that are going to be around them for those wild card slots. We were one game behind them, effectively, and now we've just leapt over them and got the tiebreak.
They need Chubb and Hunt, both fit.
Yes.
Because
at least one of them fit.
Then, when their defense is fresh, their defense is still mean. But at the moment, their defense is just
on the field.
On the field all
the
the
time. What did Dearness Johnson get rushing?
99 yards.
So he had 99 yards. Imagine what Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt would have done. They would have
got over 200 yards, probably.
Yeah, they'd have been in this game. They'd have been far more competitive. I don't think anyone thought it would be as one-sided as this. Okay, fair enough. Lastly, in the AFC East from last Thursday night's football, the Miami Dolphins cruised past the Ravens, who were this week's turgid team, in a 22-10 upset. There wasn't a lot to talk about in this game. Joe Buck's commentary at halftime, did you see that? When it was 6-3, and he said the Orioles and the Marlins have played a terrible first half because it was a baseball score.
What do you mean there's nothing to talk about? This is a brilliant game for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
It's probably their best game of the season. They absolutely game planned it perfectly.
It was an awful game. I watched it back. It was awful.
Yeah, but
you're not looking at the darker arts, which
Jim
is now
Jim's about to explain to me.
I'm about to explain. Like their defensive scheme was absolutely brilliant.
Xavier Howard was
awesome. They blitzed it with both safeties 38 times, which is probably the most, certainly the most this season, the most probably ever recorded. And they did exactly what you need to do to Lamar Jackson. Rush him from the edge, stop him going outside, pressure up the middle with numbers, so you're forcing him to make reads quickly, and then rely on his dodgy arm to throw it. This is why I don't like Jalen Hurts, because we say Jalen Hurts is a poor man's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson doesn't read the field well enough or quick enough, and hasn't got the talent in his arm that
always brings it back to Hurts.
Yeah, to be able to game plan, it's simple. Like we saw the Chargers do it against the Ravens in his first playoff game, and it's exactly the same now. I don't understand why more teams don't do this. Yes, you need the personnel to be able to do it.
Well, the Chargers did it to Lamar just a matter of weeks ago, didn't they?
Exactly.
Oh no, it's the way around, wasn't it? Sorry, they're now.
Yeah. But it's that easy. You've got to have the personnel, and they've got to be disciplined enough, and you've got to have two very good lockdown corners, which the Dolphins have in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones.
Yeah, that is a key thing. When those two players are fit, this defense is different. Absolutely.
What was good though in this game as well was also Tua played well. Brissett was doing nothing, and then Tua came in and showed he is a level above Jacoby Brissett.
It was the first time this season he's put distance between the two of them.
And
absolutely,
he's got 7 games, isn't he, to prove that he is number one.
He needs to stay fit and put up some numbers. Those two things are critical. Otherwise, the Watson talk will not go away. He's basically auditioning to keep his job, which I'm not sure I agree with, but he absolutely is, because you hadn't been able to separate Brissett and Tua up to this point. They had a win each and virtually the same stats. And all of a sudden, he's got the opportunity to go ahead. Absolutely, I think you're bang on right with what you're saying. It's nice to see the Dolphins' defence turning up, because they have been bad this season.
This is their best game of the season.
And I think Brian Flores needs to put up some numbers in the last few games as well, because there's a lot of talk about how backwards they've gone this season. You can't keep...
If you bring in Deshaun Watson, do you really want a defence-minded head coach?
No.
Probably not, and that might also be an issue for them. But I'm still not sure Watson's going to be anywhere next year either. So Tua, he's auditioning. Is this just a bad day for Baltimore, or are they genuinely going to struggle to be a Super Bowl contender or a playoff contender?
They'll be in the playoffs, but they won't be. I don't think they've got enough to be in the Super Bowl.
More of the same.
Agree.
More of the same as the last few years.
Yeah.
They'll get to the playoffs. They have bad games.
Yeah. They can be schemed against.
But as soon as you get the good teams, you can't.
Their defense is good, but it's not good enough to win them a Super Bowl.
They also cut Le'Veon Bell today. After 5 games and 2 touchdowns, they've decided they don't need him.
And 30, just only 31 carries.
Yeah,
he did well in that overtime.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
He had one decent game, like say a couple of touchdowns, but Latavius Murray is going to be fit again, and Devonta Freeman has actually played a lot
really
better
well.
than Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
So now their backfield is a great one from 3 years ago.
I don't see the point of having Le'Veon Bell if you've got a quarterback who isn't particularly good at throwing.
I think he's a distraction as well. The other two that I've just named, Murray and Freeman, you don't ever hear
Just get the
anything
heads
about
down
them.
and get on with it.
Which is great as a running back. Right, the Colts continue to come back from the dead with another win to reach 500 on the year over the Jags, 23-17, but they did let Jacksonville hang around in what should have been a game that was put to bed already. Does anyone have any thoughts on what was also a very strange game where Taylor had 77 yards in the first 10 minutes?
Yeah, and then finished with 116 yards.
What's that all about? Is that the Jags adjusted, or did what looked to me like the Colts just took their foot off the pedal completely?
I think it's the latter.
Both.
A bit of both.
Could
yeah.
be. The Jags' defence did play well last week, so it's possible that their defence is coming together.
Said it before. There's good pieces on this Jags defense.
Maybe it was a coaching adjustment.
Could have been a coaching adjustment.
I have my doubts. Is Trevor Lawrence showing all the signs you want of progression, or is he so up and down?
He's not being helped by the receivers. There's so many.
No,
drop
was
passes.
it Jamal Agnew dropped like 3
So
passes?
many drop passes.
He had a great sprint out
Yeah.
and scored, but other than that, he's looking like Stonehands Anderson.
Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback, and I look forward to him moving teams in 4 years' time, where he will
Or
finally
getting a
show
new
it.
head coach.
Yeah, he needs it. Yeah, it needs it. Something needs to change. That yeah.
You say that though, but he's shown glimmers, but I don't think he's been as good as we expected.
No,
him to
I
be.
don't either.
And I think Mac Jones has shown he was more NFL ready. He might not make.
He has the right coach.
He
has the
does
right
have the right
coach.
coach. Don't get me
Completely
wrong.
different circumstance.
Schemed. He's the
Yeah.
Patriots have schemed for Mac Jones. I think what the Jags have is a shiny new toy,
And I get that, but
and it's
you
just
look at,
glittering a turd.
and I get that the Jags aren't the Chargers, but the Bengals were in a pretty shoddy place as well.
Yes.
And you look at the impact Herbert and Burrows have had on those teams. Lawrence, take away the coach, making plays, has not had the same impact as those
I
two
agree.
players. I think there's some.
Last
we
year,
need to still see
you
more.
were all calling for Zach Taylor to be sacked, and Joe Burrow wasn't all that, and he's going to get destroyed.
No.
because
I
he's
never
got no
said.
offensive
I never
line.
said Joe Burrow wasn't all
No,
that.
we
said that Zach Taylor was.
I
letting
think
him
we've
down.
all said Zach Taylor should go. Burrow is
We all agreed
Superb.
Burrow was great.
The
We thought he would be wasted.
What's the biggest difference between the Bengals this year? They've got a genuine number one receiver who can catch the ball. And
You're suggesting Marvin Jones is not that?
well, we said it on Sunday. He's not. He's a good number 2, and he's a good player. But he is not a Jamar Chase. He's not a Calvin Johnson, a Larry Fitzgerald, a Julio Jones. The list goes on. He's not that player.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
And I do get that.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, if you look
I
against quarterbacks from last year, the impact, how much has he personally elevated that?
His
team?
contribution is so up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I mean. You know,
yeah.
it's his first year. We saw it with Peyton Manning. The first year wasn't about his whole career, but I don't mean you could look at it and go, wow, look at that. We lucked out. We
at
tanked
Herbert-
for Trevor.
Herbert, Burrows,
it was right.
Mahomes in their first seasons. You have to say Trevor Lawrence is currently closer to Darnold than he is to those three. He just is. He's not going to necessarily be your Darnold. It's just that's where he lies in the scale. Gary's absolutely right. I agree. The block punt was great in this game, only for the fact that as the punt was blocked, they zoomed in on Urban Meyer and he just was lost. He had no idea. He just looked like, take me home, take me to a strip club. I don't care. Just get me out of here.
Mine was probably some elsewhere.
I think so. I had a quick look at the Colts' path to the playoff. They don't have one. It's 5-5, and they're going to lose at least 5 more games because their run is bad. Jim, you got it up in front of you?
Bills, Bucks, Texans, Pats, Cardinals, Raiders, Jags.
They're going to lose
Nice
4 or
rhymes,
5 of those games, and they can't afford to. They can only afford to probably lose 2 more games. It's not going to happen. They're just not good enough. Not this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
they're not.
How many games are we saying you need to win in? What, 9? and
9.
I think it needs to be 9 and 8.
I
I
can
think
see
they,
them
I
winning.
think they can win 4
I
games.
can win
yeah.
them 4
I
now.
think they'll be right in the mix.
Which of those 4 games are they winning?
Jags.
I don't think
Texans, Jags, Raiders.
Yeah.
There's 3.
There's 3.
Yeah.
And one freak result somewhere.
Yeah.
Like they're everywhere at the moment. You just pick one out of the air.
The Bucks have lost 2.
true. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So hard.
True.
If it was as obvious as we thought, we'd be doing much better
Yeah,
now
absolutely.
predictably.
Oh,
And we're all
fair
shit.
point.
A lot of teams are effectively one injury
game,
away from being absolute turgid. And, I mean, well, the Bills lost to the fucking Jags last week.
Yeah.
That means the Jags next time could
Jags
beat the Colts.
lost to Washington.
Sorry,
the Bucks lost to Washington.
Yeah.
Madness.
I just
it's
think
a
of all
really
the teams,
strange few weeks.
of all the teams in the AFC hunt, I have the least faith in the Colts. Sorry, is what I'm basically getting at. I just don't think you can have faith in them.
I don't think you can, but I also think they're really a strange team that could pull out a little run.
They're in momentum as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And Wentz, or as John likes to call him, Vince, has got better and better.
3 years ago,
And
man.
if you
We don't let shit like that drop.
and
It's never going away.
their defense has got better
Yes.
and better, and they've got some great players on that defense. We saw it last year, didn't we, with Rivers?
Yeah, absolutely.
We did, and they managed to get their last. I honestly think they'll be really close. It'll be within a game or two, whether they make it or not.
In the hunt come the end of December.
Yeah. I mean, if the Raiders were Super Bowl contenders, the Colts are Super Bowl contenders.
That's a fair point.
That's a fair point.
That comment is not aged well.
But what have the
You've got another 3 years of that.
what have the
fair
Colts?
enough. Yeah,
What have the
absolutely.
Colts got that a lot of other teams in the AFC don't? They've got a running game.
Yeah.
That's true.
It doesn't matter. Like Vance is a
Vance has been
streaky
playing-
quarterback, but at least he can hand it off.
He's had one or two bad games.
The last 5 or 6 games, he's been.
He's
But the
been
rest-
good, but
he's
he
been good.
he
He's
has
not
had
turned the
2 or
ball
3
over.
plays in
Yeah.
each game where you're like, what is
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely.
These left-handed passes he's putting
Yeah,
out.
that
What's that all
shit you
about?
can cut out. But other than that, he's been pretty solid.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that's true.
I think the Colts are going to be there or thereabouts.
Just speaking of shit we could cut out, this week's shit
Why
show
is
of
this
the week.
last?
Lions 16, Steelers 16, a tie. Why are ties even allowed? This was so depressing.
Do you know what I like most about ties? 'Cause
Nothing.
It really pisses off the Americans.
Yeah.
It
They
really
seem to
pisses
really
me off.
hate
What's the
it. It's
point?
like, it's a tie.
What's the
We're a
point?
draw. Fine.
Neither team deserved to win.
No, absolutely.
It was fucking hilarious.
My
the whole
favourite
thing.
thing about this is if the Lions don't win a game, this will only be their 3rd worst season ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not kid. I mean, if you're here looking for the spectacle of the game, it's not an advert for it. But if you're looking to sit there with your mates and
Get hammered because you've got so much time on your hands.
but no, like we were sat there watching the game together, and it was fucking funny.
It was.
We were
hilarious.
absolutely baying for the Lions to win.
Yeah.
But I mean, a tie. Just have a field goal kickoff, like penalties, anything.
But you saw the fucking kickers.
I know, but it would have been hilarious. So the Santoso
To be fair,
48
we
yard
didn't see the
field goal.
Steelers kickers because they kept fucking up the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, the 48 yard field goal attempt, any one of us could have done a better job. It
That
was
was
horrendous.
it. That
I don't
was-
know who that fat guy with the moustache was, but he was terrible. He looked like somebody they got from Narcos.
Ryan Santoso as well.
Ryan Santoso. All right, it was so bad. We have to look him up. And then there were all the turnovers in overtime. Freiermouth. Who was the other Steeler that dropped a pass? Was it Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson.
And it's
dropped
like,
pass, yeah.
how are you making this such hard work to beat the Lions, and how are the Lions making this such hard work to take advantage of these opportunities?
I'll tell you how
yeah.
Steelers taking hard out of it.
Mason Rudolph.
Oh my God.
50 times he had to throw them.
50 times he threw the ball. What is the Steelers' succession plan? We know Big Ben is going.
They don't have one.
How can you be that bad as a well-run franchise? How can you be that badly organised?
They're not, are they? They're just going to go and trade for someone.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have 1 or 2
Russell
shit
Wilson.
years, and then they're going to draft someone. 1 or 2 years out of 50.
Yeah.
You can't just magic quarterbacks out of the
they've had-
woods. It's not.
Mason Rudolph's been there, 3 years or 4 years? And we've known he's not been any good all that time. The best thing he's ever done in the NFL was get beaten with his own helmet. That's it.
They're in the same issue that the Packers are in with Rodgers. When do you take that quarterback? How many years before you think that your quarterback
Sure.
might stop playing? We saw exactly the same thing at the Patriots.
Yeah,
We'll have Brissett. We'll have Garoppolo.
Yeah.
We'll have, and then all of a sudden they didn't have anybody, and they managed to take Mac Jones,
Missed Ryan Mallett off that list.
and Hoyer and whoever else. But they have a plan, and when that plan doesn't work out, then they move on to a new plan, don't they? And it's the same for the Steelers.
But they haven't moved on to a new plan. They've stuck with Mason Rudolph, and he's terrible.
They haven't, have they?
It's
They've stuck with Big Ben until Big Ben is gone, because otherwise you're just wasting talent and you're wasting picks. And if you're in a win now window with an old quarterback, you don't waste it on another. Unless you're an idiot in Green Bay, you don't waste it on another quarterback, do you? That's you deal with that when you get to it.
You look at that class of not just that draft class, but the sort of the old guard of quarterback of Roethlisberger, Manning, Rivers. Brady, Rivers. How many of them were replaced successfully? Rivers. Probably. The Chargers.
Rivers and Brady, maybe.
Everyone else.
But after a year.
Yeah,
but Brady, there was no succession plan. The succession plan was...
There was a succession plan. It was Garoppolo, and then he outlasted him. But yes, at the time he left, there wasn't. But they had it twice, and then both times
Garoppolo,
they let him go.
Garoppolo was a little early,
wanted to
much
keep
like
Garoppolo.
Jordan Love is.
Yeah.
It's just wasn't as unsuccessful as the Jordan Love one, which pissed off the quarterback so much he is going to leave.
Yeah.
It's across. It is hard to get.
How many? What was the number of starting quarterbacks for the Broncos since Peyton left? Is it 8 or 10?
10, wasn't it?
10
It was 10
different starting quarterbacks since Peyton left. Yeah. I agree. It is tricky. I don't want to keep seeing Mason Rudolph get tried out there because he's terrible. It's just strange. Why not try Dwayne Haskins? He's there. Surely you need to see what you've got.
He
do not
still
understand.
doesn't know the playbook.
It helps if you look at it.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we as well. We've seen Dwayne Haskins. He's shit. So I don't even know. The Steelers are a well-run organisation. When Ben goes next year, which pray to God he's gone. God. I'm sure the Steelers could do well with a Trubisky. These people that keep coming up, a Mariota, a Winston. Any of them could come in.
Trubisky's a great shout.
Yep.
Trubisky's a great fit for Pittsburgh. I like that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
he's never been beaten with his own helmet.
Exactly.
Jared Goff should and will be benched.
No.
He was utterly awful.
He was injured.
The team's shit.
It doesn't matter. He is also. I've been really, really saying the team's shit. He's okay. It's gonna be he holds onto the ball forever.
Oh, come on! Up till 2 weeks ago, you lot were all having the Lions loving. They've got a great atmosphere.
Yeah,
They're
Dan Campbell's doing everything he can, but
they're terrible.
you can see Dan Campbell looking at Goff like this is not what I want to see.
You can't judge it on a game against the Steelers with a great defense.
I'm not
even
judging it on the season.
But yeah, he looks up. Okay, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe not. Quintus Cephas.
Where's DeAndre Swift gone again?
Khalif Raymond.
Yeah.
It's all right. DeAndre Swift just to put it into the defensive line
Before he gets hit again.
Yeah, the team is bullshit. The fact that they've drawn a game, well done them.
I'm not celebrating a tie.
Matt Patricia damaged this team for a long time.
Yeah.
He did a terrible job.
Yes, agreed.
An absolutely terrible job. And he really, really fucked them up.
Yeah. It was a sort of search and destroy mission that really, as well,
you wonder if that's what Bill's was like. Just I'm going to send all my disciples out. Yeah. They can break teams, and then I'll just bring them back with a pay rise. That would be a very Belichick thing
defense
to
has
do.
been so good since he's been back. Okay, let's leave that game where it is because I can't deal with that. I asked sort of everyone to throw in their coach power rankings for the midway-ish point of the season. So let's have a look and see who we've got where and why we don't agree with each other. John, you have the list in front of you.
I do. So of the 3 people who submitted, which was me, Griff, and Jim,
there was quite clearly a message saying there was no list required.
Exactly. So yeah,
but everyone did it anyway.
And as soon as it came out, I thought, "Oh, this is just an excuse for Griff to say how great Bill Belichick is." So
is he number 1?
Number 1,
clearly. Have you seen the season?
Number 1, Bill Belichick. Griff has number 2, Sean Payton, Mike Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, Matt LaFleur, and at number 6, Cliff Kinkernuts. Jim has number 1 Cliff Clinkernuts, Sean McDermott, Mike Vrabel, Matt LaFleur, Bill Belichick.
Oh, I didn't put Bill Belichick at all.
You put Emperor Palpatine. I put McDermott, Clinkernuts, Belichick, LaFleur, Tomlin, Vrabel. It's all pretty much the same names, except for Gary, who at number 1 had Urban Meyer.
See,
Paul.
The thing is, with the Giants, I always get Joe Judge and Joe Jordan mixed up as well. I keep expecting some big Scottish guy to start headbutting people.
So at the, do you want to know the bottom?
Well, always.
So from 26 down, 26 for Griff, Dan Campbell, Fingers McGee, Brian Flores, David Culley, Rob Sala, the guy who's in charge of the Raiders, Matt Nagy. For
Matt
Jim,
Nagy that low.
For Jim,
Did I put Matt Nagy last?
yeah,
Did I?
yeah.
Go on.
For Jim, Matt Nagy, Mike Zimmer, Dan Campbell, Sirianni, Salah, Cully, Urban Meyer, Fingers McGee. For me, 26 down, Joe Judge, Sirianni, Campbell, Cully, Salah, Fingers McGee, and whoever's in charge of the Raiders.
And I just put Shanahan in the bottom 5 places. I'm joking.
The bottom 8 that I sent to you was Nagy, Carroll, Campbell, Meyer, Flores, Cully, Salah, Bisaccia, because he hasn't done enough games.
Oh, maybe. Well,
So you clearly made that up.
well, doesn't matter.
I had Pete Carroll really low because I think he should have been doing a lot better and his time has passed.
So did everyone else.
I really thought you were going to say a lot more gardening. I really thought that's what you were going to say.
He clearly should be doing gardening.
I think when I look at it, Jim has Mike McCarthy 12th. You have him at 7th. I have him at 20th. That's the main.
I would have
difference.
him much higher than 20th.
20th.
I think the Cowboys have the best squad. I think.
They are 7-2.
Oh yeah. The thing that I don't like about them is Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. Where was Joe Judge average position? He was really hard to judge, funnily enough.
I put him 24th.
24th. I have him at 26th. You have him around 21st.
About 21st, 22nd, yeah.
It's
I see a lot of improvement with the Giants, that's my point.
There's a lot of teams where
What do we actually know, though? Because,
nothing.
We assume a lot and we surmise a lot about. Oh, this coach. We don't know shit.
No.
Honestly,
we do.
Yeah. How am I going to power rank these coaches? I've got no fucking idea. Like, literally,
Just on
where
what
are
you
they
see.
in the standings?
Just on what you see, that's all
But,
you
like,
do.
Yeah, I
think
don't know.
I think most of us looked at what their performance is as a team, like their record, versus what we think of the squad. Because I think if you're getting more from less, I think that's a sign of a good coaching regime. I think Mike Vrabel's doing a good job because he's lost the main player on that team, and they're still getting wins. And that was a defense that wasn't great last year.
it's the adjustment they've made.
Yeah. So I think that's good coaching.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I know we talk about the Jaguars and Urban Meyer a lot. I think there are some good players on that Jaguar team. I don't think Urban Meyer getting enough out of them, if anything. So that's why for me he was bottom. You look Salah and David Culley; those two squads are terrible.
Yeah.
So we'd expect them to have bad results. So whilst they're still at the lower end because they're probably not still doing enough, they're not as bad as a good team doing badly.
Yeah. No, it's
Zach Taylor has jumped massively up on your list, Jim.
I was always very pro Zach Taylor. I thought he should be given time.
Prozac Taylor.
Yeah.
Where was
He's
Brandon
chilled.
Staley? I think he should be pretty
Prozac
high.
Taylor. He's very chill. Come on now. Come on.
Brandon
Sorry, I
Staley.
missed that. It's quarter past 10 at night. I'm doing
10th
all right
for
here.
most people.
Everybody else has missed it as well, but whatever. Anyone want to pick out any of next week's fixtures as being in any way particularly entertaining?
They look great.
I am looking forward to Thursday night football. I am really hoping terrible Falcons turn up to play Patriots. Could do with a nice Thursday
Cowboys
night.
Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
Is not one of the 9:25 games.
Do you not
UK
think
time.
that's just praying for Pat Mahomes to get picked off by Trayvon Diggs?
Potentially?
Colts Bills could be a good game.
Yeah.
Cardinals Seahawks, because the Seahawks, this is it. They have to do something, and the Cardinals have not played well.
Don't I think they can.
No, I don't think they can, but they've got to do something.
I think the Seahawks were praying that Kyler Murray is...
Packers Vikings as well.
That's a big game.
That's a big game, that is.
Yep.
Other than that, it is not a great week for
there
fixtures.
are a lot of what appear to be one-sided games, but given the way the last few weeks have gone, probably going to be some upsets.
I'm hoping myself that the Giants' defense comes back from the Bucks.
I think the Bucks might be angry. You
Yeah,
might be in
that's
trouble.
it.
I don't fancy your chances.
No,
Brady
but
doesn't like losing 2 games in a row.
we
Also, it's a primetime game. Monday
we
night.
pushed them close last year, and I hope we can. I'd like to see that the defense is at least.
You'd be pleased with a 3-point
momentum.
loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Anyone got anything else to add before we sign off for the evening? I'm going to take that silence as an epic no. Thank you very much for listening. Good night.